All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors PM meeting. It's Thursday, March 16th, 2023. And I want to remind everybody that a recording device will be in use during the meeting. And I hope everybody can hear me. We have been working on the microphones and Luke has fixed some problems. So thank you. Public comment for agenda items. Rules of conduct of public meetings established by Resolution 2001-08. The time allocated to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless otherwise set by the presiding officer. Additional public comments may be granted at the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to minutes.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd pardon the interruption, I'd like to note for the record that Supervisor Winters is now joining us via remote connection.
Okay, very good.
Jason, can you hear us? Says he's talking and the volume. I will troubleshoot that situation. Apparently he can hear me, but I can't hear him. Please proceed, Mr. Chairman. I'll troubleshoot.
Okay, minutes of the previous meetings. Approval of the February 16th PM meeting and approval of the March 2nd AM meeting.
I make approval for the February 16th and the March 2nd meeting.
I'll second it. Jason, did you hear that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You got mute on?
I'm not getting any, well, this is inside baseball. I'm not getting any sounds from the PC through the mics here. Who knows precisely how I'm going to reconstruct that. I got to tweak one variable at a time. I fixed the buzzing sound and the low pickup on the microphones. I did not anticipate this one.
Solicitor, Mr. Solicitor, is it okay to proceed with the meeting?
Yeah, we have it.
It is, you got two people.
All right.
We're good.
Okay, the treasurer's report and authorization to pay bills and approve payroll. Is there a motion for such?
So moved?
I second it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now we'll move on to item 5, the Township Manager's Report.
Not even going to spare me with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, did I miss that? Oh, my God. Got the wrong glasses on.
I can proceed at your wish.
No, why don't we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
very good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My apologies, and don't put that in the minutes that I have the wrong glasses on. Okay, now we'll move on to the treasurer, or the Township Manager's Report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start with an update on the water damage to the Township Administration Building. As you recall, early in the morning of Wednesday, December 28th, a section of fire suppression system piping located in the attic immediately above my office froze and burst open. The subsequent flooding caused significant damage to most of the Township Administration side of the building. Last month, I reported progress had been made to restore the building, including water removal, drywall repair, drop ceiling repair, HVAC and electrical system restoration, painting, and wallpaper work done in this meeting room. Since then, new carpet has been installed throughout the administration building, which is why we have the new car smell this evening, and replacement furniture began arriving today. Staff anticipates moving into their old office spaces on Monday. I'd like to extend thanks to the whole team and the members of the board for your patience while we get back into our regular offices and can get back up to full productivity. The State Association of Township Supervisors annual conference will be held in Hershey, Pennsylvania on April 23rd through 26th. Chairman Croft and I have already RSVP'd to attend. For the benefit of other supervisors present, it's not too late to join us. Please let me know if you would like to attend ASAP. Members of this board recently forwarded staff a resident request for signage and pedestrian markings on Hopewell Road between Cherry Grove and Ferndale. PennDOT approval is required prior to the installation of any mid-block crosswalk on a state highway. However, the installation and maintenance of paving markings and signs for crosswalks is the financial responsibility of local authorities like ourselves. There are minimum requirements for the installation that pertain to the speed limit of the road, the distance from other marked crossings, the minimum pedestrian crossing volume, maximum traffic volume and speed, parking restrictions, and site distance. In short, the usual next step would be for the board to decide, should they decide to support this petition, would be to engage the township engineer for a traffic study. In this instance, however, I recommend we wait to do so until research into the original design is complete. Because the current site condition includes ramps constructed by the developer, it is possible that the original highway occupancy permit prepared by the developer already included permission from PennDOT for this mid-block crossing. After an exhaustive search of our land development records, staff was unable to locate the HOP plans for permits issued in 2001. As these applications predate PennDOT's electronic permit system and are not available online, staff have made a request for PennDOT for copies and are waiting for a response. Future updates on this matter will be provided by Roadmaster Van Loo. I have a brief update on upcoming events before we meet again. On March 26th at 3 p.m. in the community park, there will be an Easter egg hunt hosted by the Parks and Recreation. On the same day, also at 3 p.m., the Historical Commission will host a speaker series. The speaker will be addressing caring for historic brick and stone. That will be in this room, 3 o'clock on March 26th. On April 16th at 3 o'clock, the Historical Commission speaker series will feature a presentation on American agricultural innovations. And I am pleased to announce that the Historical Commission has now begun posting the videos of prior meetings, in case you missed one, on the township's website. You can find that at ebrandywine.org/HC Speaker Series. Respectfully submitted, Luke Revin.
Thank you. And do we have a roadmaster's report?
There is not.
Then we'll move on to the police department report.
Good evening. We'd like to announce that Officer Mike Triola has notified the police department that he has accepted an offer of employment with the West Whiteland Township PD. Mike, his last day is going to be Tuesday, March 21st. Mike has been with the East Brandywine Township Police Department since 2018, and while he was here, he did a great job for us. And this was more of a personal decision on his. His family has just moved into that township, and he thought that this was a good move for him. We're going to miss him tremendously, and we want to wish him the best of luck at West Whiteland PD. We're very happy to inform everyone tonight that later this evening, the Board of Supervisors will be considering a new employment contract with Jeff Yankenich. I don't mention Jeff's rank because as part of that agreement, he is going to be appointed the new Deputy Chief of Police for the police department by the board, and this is something that he truly deserves. Jeff has been with the police department since 2011. He wears many hats in the police department, including the hat of our accreditation manager. Jeff's work ethic is unmatched, and he's become one of the go-to police administrators in the county when others need police operations advice or assistance with state accreditation. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors in advance for the time and effort they put in to working alongside with Jeff in preparing his new agreement and assuring that our police department retains one of our most important assets. I also like to congratulate you, Jeff. Our monthly statistics for February 2023, we had 2,174 monthly events recorded. We had 161 investigations completed, There were 5 criminal arrests, 1 summary arrest. We had no warrant arrests. We completed 1 juvenile petition. The department had 10 traffic accidents, issued 168 traffic citations, issued 80 traffic warnings, and officers logged 9,810 miles of patrol. Training completed this month. Detective Bo Shepherd and Detective Kyle Harnish attended an interview and interrogation certification class. And we had 1 piece of correspondence from Esther Smith thanking our department for the participation in her husband's funeral procession. Her husband, Gordon Smith, was a retired officer from West Goshen. And for those that may not know, our officer, Tanner Smith, was his grandson, so we participated in their funeral. The board has copies of our monthly investigations report and the officer activity report.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I interrupt again to verify that, Jason, can you participate in the meeting now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Pardon the interruption.
No, that's great. And the East Brandywine Fire Company report.
Good evening. Can you hear me? The report for the month for February, we had 49 total incidents for the month, 19 total fire incidents, 30 total medical incidents. In East Brandywine Township, we had 6 fire calls, 18 medical calls. We used 136 gallons of East Brandywine fuel. We had an average attendance at fire calls of 12.8 personnel, with 15 for major calls. We had 5 training sessions with an average of 45 personnel attending. I can't reiterate to the board enough again that that is just phenomenal. Not only the response of 12.8 members, many of the volunteer fire companies surrounding us are averaging 2 and 3 members a call. And then for training, just last night, if you would have came down, the entire firehouse was packed with volunteers training. Significant calls you may have noticed or heard of just over the line in Hideaway Farms. 2 of the barns burned down on Tuesday night, right in the middle of the night, about 2 a.m. We got a call for service when 2 of the barns right next to the old farmhouse burned down. So literally right over the line into West Brandywine Township. Also, we had a significant accident the other day. Gentleman was trapped in a truck on 82 for close to an hour. With a good effort between the fire department and the police department over on Grandview Drive. The other day, we had a wire come down, and it ended up burning the entire embankment and down Little Washington Road. Had to call about 6 additional companies in to help us with that call. But between the police department and the fire department, we were able to maintain that. The fire department also like to say, and on behalf of the chief, congratulations to Deputy Chief Yankanich. He's been instrumental in a collaboration between the fire department and police department, and it's a fine choice for your guys' department.
Thank you. And thank all your volunteers for everybody here in the township.
I will follow. Thanks.
Okay, old business, approval of purchase of wood milling machines for Bondsville Mill. Mr. Pascal.
Good evening. Last month, I presented to you the concept of purchasing milling equipment so we can continue to donate the milling work for the Bondsville Mill Park project at the volume that we need to do it this year, and to facilitate the continued donation of wood. Rocky had 3 bids to do the work. The lowest was with Grizzly for $14,751. There were several items that we had to look into before you felt comfortable in approving that purchase. Again, the purchase would be done within the allocated funds out of our capital fund budget for this year. The issues you asked us to look into was whether we could make purchases through co-stars. Luke did that the very next day and determined that we could not. The other concern was insurance costs and potential liability issues. And Luke and I were on the phone with the township's risk assessor the next day. He identified the issues that the underwriters would want to look at. And I conferred with Rocky, and Rocky came back with a very nice report to address those concerns, including secure location, lockdown of the equipment, accessed only by personnel that are trained to use that equipment. In response, the insurance company came back and said that that equipment could be covered under the existing policy with the township and that there would be no additional cost. The other thing you asked us to do was to do a cost comparison of contracting the milling work out versus using the model that we had proposed. And Rocky came up with some costs for that using his experience for costs that he's utilized with the local Amish community. And even at those prices, that is well above what we could do the work for at the park. The cost of doing it is well over the $22,000 threshold, which would mean we would have to go out to competitive bid. We would have to develop bid documents to do that work, and all the associated expenses related to that bidding model. So in looking at the costs, it does appear to be the least expensive way to go. The insurance is not an issue or a concern with regard to the insurance company for the township, and CoStars is not an option for the purchase. So I would, and we appreciate your coming out to the site to visit with us, both Carl and Kyle. We had the pleasure of giving them a tour of the park and what we were doing. So to familiarize you as much as possible. So I would ask that you approve the expenditure of $14,751 to Grizzly Industrial for the purchase of the equipment.
Okay. I did go out and visit, and I have reviewed the cost estimates. It's difficult to make comparisons, and you pointed out some of the problems. So I know it's been hashed around, but I'm willing to make a motion with some conditions to approve the purchase of the machinery. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I as well went out, and I would have some, not conditions per se, but some requests from the board. I guess if you want to discuss your conditions first, and then maybe some of ours are overlapping, and I don't want to be,
Okay. One condition is that you share with the township a list of approved trained volunteers, and that so that we have some record as to who's had the training. I'm not going to ask to approve your training course, but that's so that we have some control over in case something does
Absolutely.
happen.
I think that may have been in Rocky's summary as well.
Pardon me?
I think that may have been in Rocky's summary for
Okay, but
protocol.
a list
use.
of approved
Yes,
volunteers.
okay.
And second of all is it's under the conditions that the machineries, the woodworking machinery and the work that's going to be done is to winterize the buildings, which has been directed by both the Budget Committee and the supervisors, I believe, in approving your allocation. And that's one of the reasons I'm okay with you purchasing the machinery now, because it is your allocation, and if that's how you want to use your allocation, that's after taking the tour and looking at the information you provided and getting the insurance clearances, I'm okay with that. But it's limited to, I would like it limited, whether this is a condition or part of the approval, I don't know, or just a heads up that, you're to spend the time winterizing the buildings and we'd like to see it done before the end of 2024.
I think that's definitely doable. That will be the number one priority.
And not a condition for this, because it's a different thing, but at that point, as you're finishing that up, you start developing a plan as to what you want to do in the interior. But that's a separate issue. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, so I guess, again, as stewards of the taxpayers' money, we have a responsibility to obviously give a good return on investment. So we had talked about this, that, and you hit the nail on the head, if we allot a certain amount of time to this project, and this equipment then would be listed back for sale, and there would be some type of recoup to the taxpayers.
Yes.
So I think if Carl just said, what was your date you were thinking?
The end of 2024.
All right, so that way, we're essentially selling used equipment through municipal, but we can go ahead and do that the same as we do at the township, the same as we do at the roadmasters, with plows and trucks and such.
Yeah, so essentially the equipment will be less than $14,000 in the end.
Correct. But again, it's something that's going back towards the taxpayers.
Yes.
The only other thing that I had was, we had talked about this before, about the maintenance of the equipment. Because of the heat, well, it has heat, but because of the no air conditioning and the humidity down there, I just want to make sure that we're on some type of a regular maintenance schedule, whether it's once every 3 months, whether it's once every 2 months, but some type of a maintenance schedule. And if somebody can, from your group, could just submit to the township, whatever it is, if it's quarterly, what was done, how it was done, so at least when we go to sell this equipment, we can say, this equipment was not just thrown in a barn and left there for a year, or two, rather.
So you want maintenance reports?
Correct.
Well, just FYI, Rocky did provide the methodology that he would be using to maintain that
Yep,
equipment
right,
in his
correct,
summary.
correct.
But we'll report to you on a regular basis when that's done, all right?
And it goes without saying, obviously, we are so lucky to have a group of people willing to put in this time and energy to help us in this township. This property has been, as long as I've been here, it's been under construction, and it's amazing that we have people that are willing to put the time in on your own time, volunteering to do this, and we are very fortunate to have you guys.
And they have the expertise to do it.
And girls, and ladies,
And they have the expertise to do it.
and the expertise.
Yeah.
Chief?
Jim, do you know if any of the security cameras that are down at the mill right now have a visual on the area that
Yes.
they're already?
Yeah, we have pretty good coverage, especially around the buildings.
They have the exterior work done
You can
by
view that live.
the end of
because we
2024.
have
No, I
internet
was
set
just
up
gonna
there.
ask that, to make sure that.
And that
Okay. Yep.
provide the township with a list of trained, approved operators, and, some may leave, some may be added. Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly, because I think I heard Jim say something about having to bid the purchase.
No, we've
Okay,
already
just let me
got the
finish.
bids.
If they d-
If I recall, last time, we had 3 quotes, which puts it between the no bid amount and the place where we have to bid, around 22,000. So we're in that middle range.
We're in the range where you have to get at least 3.
3 quotes.
Three
Okay, that's
telephone
fine.
three-
Yeah, which we
I
do.
just wanted to make sure I understood that.
No, they have done everything according to my knowledge and interpretation of the township code. that-
Requirements, yeah.
Lastly, this is more of a personal note. We, as the board, get letters regularly. We'll call it hate mail. Recently, Bondsville Mill was one of those letters that came to the board. And I want to be clear because the person's probably watching this video because they had made notes towards the fact that you guys are in here weekly and obviously.
You have been here a lot
Yeah, so
recently.
I just wanted to point out to the last person who wrote the letter, and I wanted to point out to you guys as well. Clearly, we look out for everybody's money, everybody. And it goes without saying, this is why we're trying to do this situation where there can be a return on investment and the equipment can be returned. But I do want to say to this person and to you guys as well, it is tough being in the board's position when we regularly have to have hard discussions with everybody, staff, police, fire, everybody, and have to say no sometimes. And I just want to point that out, that, it's getting to a point where the board is starting to catch some heat from the residents. And I just want you guys to be careful on what, the hard requests. And just understand that we're getting the shots fired through the letters and emails. And although I agree with what you guys are doing, I think we have to spell it out a little bit clearer for the folks at home, what's actually going on behind the scenes. So I just wanted to point that out. But again, I wanted you guys to be aware that we've had this discussion with everybody at this table about money. And it's hard saying no, but unfortunately, sometimes it has to happen.
I understand that, and can I say something to
sure.
that? The development of Bonsall Mill Park has been done very efficiently. Bang for the buck, we're spending an order of magnitude under what we would have spent to have a professional come in and do the work, to pay to do the work. And generally speaking, the expense of developing Bonsall Mill Park is, compared to other things in the township, on the lower end of the scale. So people complain about things, and they have a right to do so, but they often aren't aware of the big picture and what the other expenses of the township are, the police department, what we're giving the fire department, what it costs to develop the community park, what it costs to build this building. If we were to list expenses of the township, Bonsall Mill Park wouldn't be anywhere close to the top of the list. I just want to make that clear.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you, like I said, you guys came under heat to the board just
Yeah.
recently in this email, so I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so I will make a motion to approve the issuance of the 14
14.7,
$751.
$14,751 for the purchase of said equipment under the agreement that the schedule would be completed within a 2-year time frame. It would be exterior exterior improvements to be done first. If obviously that's completed, then other things could get done if it was in that two-year time frame. It would be equipment, we would work out an agreement. I'm going to say right now a quarterly agreement for maintenance to be supplied to the Board of Supervisors. Equipment would be then listed at the end of the 2-year period. And I'm going to say actual date of, we'll say not obviously today, but obviously date of hookup, or so to speak. You know what I mean?
right.
Because obviously there could be some, right,
Yeah, it's
right.
going to take us a month to get the equipment and get
Yep.
it set up.
I already told you about the equipment maintenance schedule quarterly, and the list of trained, approved operators will be submitted and agreed upon with the township personnel. Lastly, everything would be void if the insurance company comes back to us at any point and says, stop. So we would have to make that, obviously.
May I make a friendly amendment to the list we had there? First of all, when we're talking about exterior work, I think we're all of the mind, but I'd like to make it explicit, we're referring to buildings A and C at the site.
Correct.
To close up A and C, yes.
Yeah, so the timeline we've discussed for the exterior work by the end of 2024 refers to buildings A and C at the site.
Right.
Okay, I just want to be clear in the direction. And I had further heard a reference in Carl's discussion about the interior use. Carl, was, just to further clarify, what you had stated as one of the conditions you were considering had to do with the interior use of C. Would you like, in terms of administration, does that mean
Yes,
you'd like the committee to return at the point when a use is proposed?
I think they should be prepared to make presentations in the budget cycle, which would start in August and September of this year. And if you're not ready to do it, then it would be August or September of 2024. But before you can start doing any interior work, you need to present a plan.
Well, it's possible that they could be doing some general interior work during the exterior.
Yeah, I can
I mean, the
envision.
priority is to close up the buildings,
Right,
clearly.
but I could also envision a situation where you have all the volunteers coming down on a Saturday and it's pouring rain, inside must take precedent.
We're trying to set a roadmap for you.
Yes, I understand
We're
your
not going to
goal.
get that detailed, but I wouldn't start any major interior projects until you've made presentations as to what building A and C are going to be used for.
Okay. Understood.
That's the end of my friendly suggested amendment.
Wow.
So we'll
Is
just,
that all appropriate for a motion, or should the motion just be to make the purchase and and then
I mean, there
a
are
letter of
conditions-
understanding
based
with
on
the
the conditions set
that-
I
forth.
mean, I think it's appropriate to make those conditions of the purchase.
Okay. And you've made that motion, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
One thing, to our friends at the township,
I hate to be a pain, but for the records. You done with the pictures too?
What?
Pictures.
Yeah, I didn't read.
sorry, I'm Doug Freeman, I'm on the committee for the mill. I just want to point out that we have our own website, a Facebook that's through the township. And we put photographs of our construction, so if people aren't sure what's going on, they can tune into the Facebook thing and see, how the construction is progressing. And we got 137 likes the other day, and we sent some pictures of the garden with sun in it. So people do watch it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
Well,
that's
thank
all.
you, Don, and thank you for the pictures. Unfortunately, I live right by it, so I see it every day. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7, new business. A, contract between East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors and Jeffrey Conich, Deputy Police Chief.
Thank you. You have before you this evening a proposed contract, as the chairman just described. It's a 3-year contract for this year, 2024 and 2025. And this is a contract between the township and Jeffrey Yankanich, Deputy Police Chief. So it would be appropriate for the board to entertain a motion to appoint Lieutenant Yankanich as Deputy Police Chief and also approve this 3-year contract.
I make a motion that we approve the promotion of Lieutenant Yankanich to Deputy Chief and approve the 3-year contract.
I'll second.
Any comments? All those in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Make a note, we'll have the formal swearing in at the April 7th meeting. Although you're getting actually sworn in before then, we're going to have the public's swearing in on April 7th.
Yes, April 6th.
So you can have some family here.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Item B, permission to hire Stephen Flagler as Municipal Authority Secretary Bookkeeper pursuant to the employment agreement of May 7th, 2022. Mr. Revin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you may recall, this board entered into a employee assignment agreement with the East Brandywine Municipal Authority in May of 2022. Provisions of that agreement were that the staffing needs of the municipal authority would be met by a township employee. It described compensation for that employee and a reimbursement rate that the municipal authority would pay for that service. It has been a long search for a very difficult person to replace. Jan Bednarczyk, the recording secretary for the municipal authority, is retiring. While we're sad to see her go, I am very pleased to announce that the search committee, made up of township staff and members of the municipal authority, has found an excellent candidate in Mr. Plower, who is present in the meeting this evening. A conditional offer was made to Mr. Plower for, on the basis of, there were 4 conditions for that. One, that he be appointed at the public meeting of a municipal authority. That has been a hurdle successfully cleared. 2, that he was appointed at a public meeting of the East Brandywine Township, and that's why it appears as an agenda item this evening. Additionally, successful completion of a background check and procuring bonding, security bond for an employee who does a great deal of cash handling. At this time, it's my pleasure to recommend that the board consider extending a conditional appointment as municipal authority secretary / bookkeeper to Mr. Stephen Plower.
Just a question, what do you mean by conditional?
On the condition that the other check boxes are checked.
Okay.
We're getting them all checked out. I have no concerns.
All right. So is it appropriate to have the motion now then?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we hire Mr. Flegler as a municipal authority secretary bookkeeper pursuant to the employment agreement of May 7th, 2022 with East Brandywine Township.
I'll second, but I think it's important that we should probably correctly pronounce his name. Is it Plogger?
Flogger? I'm sorry.
No, because we've had 2 different sets, but I just wanted to correct make sure we were right on it. I'll second the recommendation for hiring Stephen Plogger as the administrator for the East Brandywine Township Municipal Authority.
Any comment, Jason?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and my apologies for the mispronunciation, sir.
All right, item C, a motion to name Fulton Bank as depository for the traffic impact fee and the open space referendum and the capital projects accounts. Each of these are 3 separate and distinct money market accounts. When I first became supervisor, I did a little review of our accounts, and I met with our current bank. Those 3 accounts are with S&T. All of our other accounts are with S&T, and I'm not talking about moving any of those. But the market conditions have changed dramatically as far as interest rates in the last few months. And our current earnings on those 3 accounts are 0.15%. So I dropped in to Fulton, which happens to be the only bank located in our township, and knowing that they do a lot of municipal work and have a whole department that does nothing but municipal work, inquired as to what their rates would be, and their rate was 3.5% on those size money markets. That would generate for the township an additional $255,000 a year that would go to those funds. Doesn't go to the general fund. It would stay in the referendum, the traffic impact, and the capital fund. But that's a significant amount of money, so I'm asking permission from the supervisors to name Fulton as a depository for those 3 accounts. The rate of 3.5% is guaranteed for six months. After that, it's based on the federal funds rate. The federal funds rate is somewhat complicated, but it's set every day. It's what the banks charge each other. Their normal, how they use it is they deduct 1.25 basis points from the federal funds rate. That happens to equal 3.5 on the day that they gave the quote. So even at the end of 6 months, the federal fund rate has gone up dramatically. It's now 4.6% as of yesterday. And a year ago, it was 0.5%. So I anticipate interest rates continue to rise. But even if they don't, we have a 6-month guarantee.
Okay, I make a motion to name Fulton Bank as a depository for the traffic impact fee, the open space referendum, and the capital projects accounts.
I second it. Any question, Jason?
No.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, D, motion to appoint Matthew Anthony to the Budget Committee.
Yeah. First, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your work in locating an account that has a higher yield. Appreciate it. It was a great deal of effort. Thank you. So the Township's Budget Committee has made a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to appoint a 5th member. Gentleman's name is Matthew Anthony. He attended the last meeting of the Budget Committee, at which time the committee recommended that the board appoint him. It's nice to have an odd number in case there's a tie to be broken, and so at this time, it's my pleasure to recommend that Mr. Anthony be appointed to the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee is a ad hoc committee. It has no length of term. It's appointed annually as a whole.
Thank you. I'll just add that the Budget Committee is extremely impressive, their resumes. Mr. Anthony is a retired actuary who set rates for insurance companies. The other 4 all have been in corporate finance, and looking forward to have them help the township study various projects and ease up the time demands on our staff. They have graciously volunteered to take on certain projects, and they were assigned in the last Budget Committee meeting. So hopefully it'll be an asset to the township. All right, item E, appointment of Dennis Mulhern.
Motion,
Oh,
I'll
I'm
make a
sorry.
motion to appoint Matthew Anthony to the Budget Committee.
I'm sorry.
All good.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Item A, the township has a trash and recycling fee, which I understand amounts to over $900,000 a year. Determined that Dennis Mulhern would be a good candidate to collect that fee, and he's agreed to do it. So there's a motion before you to appoint Dennis Mulhern, who happens to be the tax collector, as collector of the trash and recycling fee. This is separate from his duties as the elected tax collector. He would be engaged as an independent contractor for a flat annual fee. I prepared a letter agreement with Mr. Mulhern, which he has reviewed and approved.
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Mulhern as the collector for the township trash and recycling fee.
I'll second.
Any discussion, Jason?
No, I didn't really get a chance to see what the agreement was.
It's what we had discussed, so there was nothing unusual in it.
What was it though?
The dollar
I
amount?
was, the last time I was told I thought that I had to think about it more.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I couldn't understand.
Couldn't understand that. Can you repeat, please?
I said I was under the impression that we hadn't come to agreement on that yet. And that's why I'm trying to, what is his compensation going to be?
The $6,000 as a subcontractor for that fee, which is we thought was a very reasonable fee. All right, there is a motion and it's been second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Subdivision and zoning applications, there are none. Ordinance and resolutions for consideration. Mr. Revin?
Thank you. I'm going to rely on solicitor for some backup on some of the technical aspects of the proposed ordinance. For you this evening is a draft ordinance that pertains to the procedures of the zoning hearing board. The last time this agenda item appeared before the board, we were asking permission to refer it to Chester County for Act 247 review. A letter has returned from Act 247 review. The recommendations therein were considered by the Planning Commission, and it is now forwarded to the board. The action item this evening, at your discretion, is to direct staff and the solicitor to advertise this proposed ordinance for adoption. By way of brief summary of what it contains, our zoning procedures are dictated by the state enabling legislation known as the Municipalities Planning Code, or MPC, as well as the local ordinances that we've adopted. It is my personal philosophy that if there is a section of code that exists in one place, it's best not to duplicate it in a second place. And so one of the goals of this was to eliminate those passages that are duplicative of the rules in the municipality's planning code. In general, it's housekeeping for procedures. Mr. Estee, do you have anything to add or subtract from my summary there?
I could not have summarized it better.
All right.
I
So,
might call it a cleanup ordinance.
right. So I'd respectfully ask that the board authorize staff and the solicitor to advertise this draft ordinance for adoption.
I'll make a motion to authorize the solicitor to advertise, did you say advertise the ordinance?
Correct.
Advertise the ordinance for adoption.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? As a information to note, there was an executive session. It says no executive sessions. But there was an executive session.
Sure. So at the conclusion of the last meeting, we announced that a meeting would follow. And if you'll note, the language says between Friday the 3rd and today. So that executive session would have been on Thursday the 2nd.
All right. And there will be a short session tonight after the meeting, executive session, to discuss personnel matters. Or move to adjourn?
So moved.
I second. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.